Some truths aren't spoken, they're felt. It's subtle, silent signs almost no one ever explains. Because when a girl is interested in you, she rarely says it directly. She shows it in other ways. Subtle, uncomfortable, confusing, and that's where most men get it wrong. This video isn't about pretty phrases or generic advice. It's about reading what's really happening when a girl is interested in you, but will never say it. If you've ever felt like something was there, but didn't know what to do, this is for you. Watch until the end. And if you want to understand these dynamics like a confident, self-aware man, subscribe to the channel now. We're building a strong, direct, honest community for men who want to grow, and our goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers. Your subscription isn't just a click, it's part of the movement. Topic 1. She changes her behavior. But not her words. She keeps saying, "We're just friends. I'm not looking for anything," or "I'm fine like this," but something feels off. Because when a woman isn't interested, her actions line up with her words. Here they don't. There are looks that last half a second longer, silences that feel heavy, and attention that shows up uninvited. He notices it but can't explain it. And that's what messes with his head. A mentor would say words are cheap, behavior isn't. She starts adjusting her schedule, replying faster to him than to others, changing her tone when they talk, one-on-one. When she doesn't announce it, define it, or confirm it, it just happens. It's like someone saying they don't care, while clearly paying attention. The inconsistency isn't the problem, it's the clue. A practical example. She says she's not really into texting, yet she messages him late at night. She says she hates last-minute plans, but agrees to see him with 10 minutes notice. That's not emotional contradiction, it's attraction handled poorly. And when he learns to observe without confronting, something deeper starts to show up, especially when other people are around. Topic 2. She creates micro one-on-one moments, even in crowded places. When a girl is interested but doesn't want to admit it, she doesn't go for big gestures. She goes for small moments, almost invisible ones. At a gathering, a party, work, or with friends, she always finds a way to be close to him. That's not random. It's instinct. Like the world gets a little quieter when they're standing less than 3 feet apart. A mentor knows real attraction doesn't shout at whispers. She leans in to talk even when there's no noise, lowers her voice only with him, starts side conversations while everyone else stays surface level. It's an emotional bubble. No one else notices it, but he feels it. And when it ends, there's that strange feeling of something happened, even if nothing obvious did. A clear example. In a group, she always ends up sitting next to him. If he moves, she follows a few minutes later. Instead of posting in the group chat, she messages him directly. That's not shyness, it's choice. And when he starts noticing who creates those micro moments, he begins to understand something important. Because that pattern becomes even clearer when the attention turns personal. Topic 3. She remembers details you didn't even know you shared. When a girl isn't interested, she listens out of politeness. When she is interested, she records. She stores small details, offhand comments, things you've already forgotten. And later, she brings them up at the exact right moment. It's not to impress you, but because they stuck. Real attention works like that, quiet and selective. A mentor would say emotional memory is a strong sign of interest. She remembers how you like your coffee, a story from your childhood, a goal you mentioned just in passing. She doesn't write it down or point it out. It just shows up naturally in conversation, like it was always there. And that kind of connection can't be faked for long. A practical example, he casually mentions he likes running at night to clear his head. Weeks later, she asks how his night runs that help you think have been going. That's not coincidence. That's emotional investment. And when someone invests attention like that, there's usually more going on, something that starts to show when emotions move into deeper territory. Topic 4. She tests your emotional boundaries. This is where things get interesting. When a girl is interested but won't admit it, a pattern shows up. She tests you. Not with over-the-top drama, but with small emotional friction. One day she's warm, the next a little distant. She makes a joke that hits a sensitive spot. She disappears for a few hours, then comes back like nothing happened. It's not cruelty, it's observation. A mentor understands these tests aren't about reaction, they're about stability. She wants to see if he falls apart, gets anxious, or loses his center when things shift. If she replies late, does he push, get upset, go cold? Every response gives her information. And the calmer he stays, the more secure he feels without saying a word. A clear example, she casually mentions another guy and watches his reaction. Not to trigger jealousy, but to measure emotional maturity. If he stays grounded, curious but not reactive, something changes in her eyes, because that's when interest starts going deeper, right when it stops being light and starts getting personal. Topic 5. She reacts differently when you talk about other women. Here, the body speaks before the mouth. When he mentions another woman, Evan, casual as something shifts. Maybe her smile tightens, her eyes drift away for a second, or her tone changes slightly. She doesn't say that bothers me. She doesn't make a scene, but she reacts. Those micro-reactions can't be rehearsed. A mentor knows subtle jealousy doesn't exist without emotional investment. If she didn't care, the topic would pass with no friction. But when there's interest, the emotional system turns on automatically. Half-jokes, innocent questions, or strategic silence reveal more than any confession. It's not possession, it's attachment beginning to form. A clear example, he mentions grabbing coffee with someone. She responds with a too quick, nice, and immediately changes the subject, or asks questions she doesn't really need to ask. Not to control, but to emotionally place herself. And when he learns to read that without confronting it, he starts seeing something deeper. Because that interest becomes even clearer when she looks for validation without asking for it. Topic 6. She seeks subtle validation, not direct compliments. When a girl is interested but doesn't want to expose herself, she doesn't ask for compliments. She observes. She watches how he reacts to her decisions, her opinions, her small wins. She changes something about her appearance, shares a personal achievement, or talks about an important idea, and waits. Not for applause, for signals, because to her, real validation isn't requested, it's felt. A mentor understands this kind of validation seeking is quiet and deep. She doesn't ask, "Do you like me?" but notices if he looks at her differently. She doesn't say, "What do you think about me?" but registers whether he respects her boundaries and supports her growth. That kind of attention is worth more than 1,000 compliments. And when he validates without overdoing it, without trying to impress, the connection becomes smooth and strong. A practical example. She mentions starting a new project, changing jobs, or making a tough decision. If he responds with genuine interest, steady support, and no rescuing energy, she feels it as emotional safety. She won't say it, but she stores it. And that feeling opens the door to something more delicate. Something that starts when she decides to be vulnerable, even with the brakes on. Topic 7. She opens up emotionally. But with the brakes on, here's a powerful and delicate sign. She starts sharing personal stories, insecurities, fears, or experiences she doesn't tell just anyone. It's not a full emotional dump, it's controlled openness. She shares enough to get closer, but stops just before feeling exposed, like taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. A mentor knows this isn't confusion, it's self-protection. She wants connection, but fears the emotional cost. So she opens up, then changes the subject, shows vulnerability, then cracks a joke, says something serious, then downplays it. She's not playing games. She's testing whether the space feels safe enough to stay a little longer. A practical example. She shares a past disappointment or emotional wound and watches his reaction. If he listens without judging, without trying to fix her, without invading, something relaxes inside her, because she feels seen, not analyzed. And when that happens, a silent question appears. What if she stayed, even when she could walk away? Topic 8. She doesn't leave, even when she has good reasons. When a girl isn't interested, any excuse works. She's tired, busy, distracted, has no time. But when there's interest, Evan, unspoken, she stays. Not always in obvious ways, but through small acts of presence. She lingers a bit longer, replies even when she's busy, shows up again when she didn't have to. A mentor understands staying is an emotional decision. She could disappear without explanation, but she doesn't. She tolerates silence, awkward moments, even small frustrations. Not because she lacks options, but because there's something there she still wants to understand. And that silent choice weighs more than any verbal promise. A practical example. After a deep conversation or a tense moment, she keeps texting days later. She doesn't cut things off or go cold. She keeps the thread alive. When someone chooses to stay without guarantees or labels, they're saying more than any confession ever could. So now the question isn't whether there's interest. It's what he will do with it. Conclusion. If you've made it this far, you now know something most men never learn. What do you question is simple. What are you going to do with this information? Keep doubting your instincts or start observing calmly without anxiety, without chasing confirmation. The signs are there every day, in the looks, the silence, in who stays when they could leave. The difference is made by the man who knows how to read them and act with clarity. Think about it. How many times did you react before understanding? How often did you talk when it was time to observe? Now you have tools to change that. To be more grounded, more aware, more emotionally attractive. Not to manipulate, but to never be confused again. Real change starts when you apply, not when you just listen. Now tell me in the comments, which of these signs have you experienced and misunderstood before? What would you do differently today? Join the conversation. And if this opened your eyes, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here we speak clearly, without filters, about real dynamics no one explains to men. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and if you're here, it's not random. It's time to level up together.